I really want to just share today what is YouthMappers, where are we, what are we doing, and hang on, because about halfway through I'm going to have a really special announcement. I'm so excited that I get to announce it at GIS Day, so hold on for that. So what is this all about, YouthMappers? You know, really the idea came about because we've been involved in this space with the open geography, open data, open spatial data, and many of you might have heard of a platform called OpenStreetmap, where there's many places around the world where we need to really fill in the data. The map might be missing key information, fundamental information. This is a project that has many years of activity, and then in about 2010, when the earthquake hit Haiti, the humanitarian organizations that do use this really got together and said, this is such an important tool. You really understand the value of a map and what that spatial data is, especially when you really need it in an emergency and a disaster kind of situation. So the humanitarian organizations really started deploying this in their work, and increasingly people from the academic sector as well started utilizing this for actual authentic end uses for the spatial data. And we were part of some of that. We kept seeing students being involved, and it was about 2014 when we started asking what could we do if we could really empower our students to contribute even more to this. It was about 2015 when the earthquake hit Kathmandu, and there were some students who were already ahead of time mapping in Kathmandu, Nepal. And then when the earthquake hit, it was immediately visible. You can see here what the value of that spatial data is. And so a lot of people think of that OpenStreetmap platform in those sorts of terms. It's a map, it's a platform, it's a data, but we really think about it as a community. And OpenStreetmap is a community of communities. It's really important that we understand this, and we started asking, what is that we could do to support our community and what we could do to support youth and students in universities. So that's really how YouthMappers was born. We launched GIS Day 5 years ago. So it's our 5th birthday on the 18th. So we're really excited. We just started with some universities and then started inviting everyone, and I call it a movement because it really started taking off. In the first 100 weeks, we had 100 universities join up with YouthMappers. It's really a loose consortium. We're not our own nonprofit, but we do have funding to conduct activities through our sponsors, and one of our co-sponsors and co-founders is the U.S. Agency for International Development. So today we have 223 universities in 51 countries that have student groups that are creating open maps for real-world humanitarian and development projects. We do much more than that now. We have a chapter structure, a chapters network kind of structure. So the groups on these campuses are students of any major, any field, and in fact there's one campus per chapter, or one chapter per campus, and such as at Penn State, the map libraries are also a really exciting place for our students to come together from across the campus to work on the humanitarian and development projects. So a lot of times this work is remote. We might be working in groups remotely. Some people are creating the data, some people are using the data, some people are helping to organize the groups. In all, we think we have about 5,000 students around the world that are a part of these chapters. It's always a moving target, and we're adding new chapters really every month. So the founding organizations was U.S. Agency for International Development, Texas Tech University, George Washington University, West Virginia University, and now I'm at Arizona State, and we're leading the fiscal management of some of the resources that we use to support our participants around the world. Of course, when I said a community of communities, that means a community of organizations as well. And many of you might be familiar with HOT, with Missing Maps, some of the logos you see here, and each one of them have committed to support the young people who are part of this network. So thank you. I think a few of the people that are on this screen are also on the call today, and we appreciate them. So what do? I promised you I would tell you about what we create, the data, the knowledge, and the community, and tell you just a little bit about each of these areas. And of course, working with OpenStreetmap, it won't surprise you that we do create geospatial data. We often do that again remotely because you can actually map from anywhere. We have our chapters hold parties, mapathons on their own campuses, and they might even hold map-offs where they choose a sister chapter and have a mapathon together where they will map for the humanitarian tasks together. This is a really nice way to keep track of what is happening all around the world. If you go to activity.youthmappers.org, you can actually see over time all of the contributions. Well, I say all, but they're not all because we really, these are sort of our best guess about where our current students are. You can see that over time, YouthMappers have added millions of buildings, hundreds of thousands of kilometers of highway, and then also the data and the amenities on what type of a building is this, what's the name of this road, what about land use, other kinds of things, and you can really see who's working where. And often those tasks and that creation, that first part of creating the data that is missing, is done in collaboration with the humanitarian OpenStreetmap team. They have a tasking manager, which we sometimes work through, and you can find, if you sort by YouthMappers, you can find some of the things that our students and faculty are working around the world on. And then we also use a tool, which is another instance of this management, the project management that is on Teach OSM, which is a space that we sometimes use when we're training or learning a little bit more. More and more we're using these augmented mapping tools, such as those Map with AI that have put together by Facebook and Microsoft. And we can even get access to actual remote sensing data behind that map for our students if they're going to do more than just that creation. We have our own link on the Map with AI site. Students will often be doing some of this stuff in their classroom, but we do offer training, we offer webinars, we have a syllabus exchange for the faculty who want to maybe find out how you can incorporate this into your courses. And there's a really rich sort of library to help students actually learn to become involved. We want to make sure that when we create this data that it has high quality. Thanks to some of our sponsors, we have a fieldwork program where if you're going to create data not just remotely, like you can do in the lab, but you can also create data in your own community, maybe for your dissertation or your thesis. We do have a new program for supporting students around the world to create that local data and for a particular humanitarian or development purpose. And finally, powered and directed by our partners at George Washington University, we do have a validation hub. We're looking out for our students because we want to make sure that if there's a hashtag that says YouthMappers, that it's known to be high quality edit with volunteer geographic information. We know that's really important. And so we do the training and the validation as well. But we don't just build maps, we build mappers, as I said. This is a community and a community of communities. So some of the other things that we do is support our students to create knowledge and to create some insights and give support to those chapters through that data, right? So one of the things that we really love to do is to hear from our youth mappers. We have a very rich blog. We amplify the voices of youth. They're completely written by them and edited by our wonderful team managing director and communications director. We have run a virtual internship program through the USAID Geo Center, which gives a really special opportunity for students to develop their skills on real, authentic projects that the Geo Center is working on. We do that virtually even before the pandemic, just because everyone is distributed all around different time zones, and encourage you to look out for that. Another funded program that we have is for our leadership fellows. Every other year, we have a cohort of students that would like to improve their skills and leadership in their chapters. And so we support that with professional development, additional training, and then just building that community. This is a picture of our very first one that was held in none other than Kathmandu, Nepal, very appropriately, where we had students from every continent, Latin America, North America, Africa, Asia, Europe, meet all together and get to know each other and really help build this movement. Really one amazing group of people. So every other year we do that. And then the off years, we have a research fellowship where we talk about how to extract that open data from OpenStreetmap and some other types of data so that we can use it to create knowledge about disaster preparedness, any kinds of those resilience themes like food security, many different themes that the students are always working on. We support the mentors to do this training as well, because we sometimes know that as professors, the field is always changing, and they contribute and help teach it and also learn from each other in that process, and another source of community. Through that work, we've been able to amass, just in the last 5 years, a bibliography really of how this VGI and the humanitarian uses of the data can be used to support the Sustainable Development Goals, what that place is in the Manual of Digital Earth, what is Digital Earth, and how are youth contributing to that. And then all sorts of projects about what kinds of tools, workforce development, and education kinds of studies that we've been able to do with the YouthMappers. And it's really a rich intellectual and academic contribution that the students are making together with us. I want to also mention that as we're doing this and creating data and building capacity, we do have a very clear statement of ethics, valuing people first and the community. The students themselves co-authored this ethics statement clear back in 2015, and I think it's something really worth paying attention to, because that's really important these days. You can take a look at that. And finally, we do give various categories of recognition. The only thing that we really ask our chapters to do are hold 2 events every year. One of them should be with one of our campaigns, and then to submit a report about what you've accomplished. And through that information, then we are also able to give some recognition and have the students, their leadership recognized. That report is due always at the end of the year, December 31st. And so that's a little reminder to any of our chapters that are listening to submit their reports. Because when we do, we find other ways to build and create our community when we're connected with them. One of these ways is through the regional ambassadors, and our regional ambassadors go through those reports and help the community grow and thrive. They help stand up new chapters and onboard students who maybe they have their own existing groups and want to affiliate, or maybe they want to create a whole new chapter. And our ambassadors really help us do that, along with our managing director, Marcela Ceballos, and communications coordinator, Dara. Okay, here's the exciting part. I said we were about building community, and we are really happy to announce today, in fact, our press release just went out, that we're starting a new campaign that is called Everywhere She Maps. Because within our community, we realize that everywhere that we can promote participation of our female mappers and promote projects that actually support improvement and the participation of women and girls, then we can make a difference everywhere she maps. So this is led by, in fact, if you go to everywhereshemaps.org, it's our brand new website, and you can see this live. We're promoting for 2 reasons. There's really 2 issues that we have proposed to address with this. And that first one really is that women are typically underrepresented in technology, and even in the GIS and geospatial fields in many areas, you will find some underrepresentation. YouthMappers are about 40% female, so we're very proud of that kind of participation globally, but we want to do even more. And we want to not just be inclusive, but support active participation. So through funding from the USAID Geo Center, which comes from the Women and Global Development and Prosperity, we were able to receive a grant of $1.5 million for the next 3 years. So starting next year, we will start to offer more and more opportunities through those mechanisms that I just mentioned to you, for the fellowships, for the projects, and also for the mapping campaigns, and some regional ambassadors as well. So that's how we're going to be supporting our female mappers. We also believe that that will improve the actual repository of data in OpenStreetmap, because the kinds of questions that we ask when we have active participation of women and girls are going to be somewhat different. And that geospatial data that gets created as a result of that participation and the focus on women and girls' issues around the world are really going to be different and change the map. And doing that directly actually ideally will create this enabling environment that will increase women's security, save lives, generate power, increase prosperity, and create innovation. I want to tell you about those and tell you just really quickly about each one of those things. These are all mapped to the Sustainable Development Goals. And as we go throughout the year, we'll come up with more and more campaigns that you can participate and activities that you can help us with. At the end of these examples, I'd like for you to also think about what examples you would add. Okay, so think about this. Everywhere she maps, how would you fill in the rest of that sentence? Okay, if you think of a good one, please put it in the chat, or you can tweet at us, add it on Facebook, and use the hashtag everywhere she maps. So here's how we have started to answer that question. Everywhere she maps, security improves. One of these examples is from one of our YouthMappers regional ambassador, Ingrid Quintu, and I think she's actually on the call today. She actually looks at displacement of refugees and the problems that refugees face, who are women, as they flee situations of conflict or violence is really different. They are sometimes even more vulnerable. And so her work is looking at how to make sure that the places where they seek refuge are safe and secure. So she's doing that with all sorts of data that is on OpenStreetMap, the open tools like JOSM and QGIS to analyze this kind of movement with other layers of geographic data. So you can read more about her work here too, and how she is part of a movement to help refugees who flee their homes. We also think that everywhere she maps, lives are saved. And the work that Maliha is doing in Bangladesh is a really good example about this, because she is working with women who need shelter in times of disaster, such as the cyclones that are really increasingly frequent occurrence in Bangladesh. Sometimes for different reasons, women might be less mobile, or they may not have the knowledge of where they need to go if they need to access shelter. And at the same time, they're also often responsible for caring for the household and the families. And so it becomes really, really imperative that women need to know where to go and how to navigate there and how to get to shelter. So Maliha has been doing actually a couple of years of this work and interviewing displaced women about how they respond in those kinds of life-threatening situations. And she's been doing a lot of community geography, collecting data with the Kobo toolkit, and also field papers, which are a way to print on hard copy and then quickly link it up to OpenStreetmap. So you can see how her work is really helping. Right now it's super important because of the changing climate. We're seeing lots of increased intensity and frequency of these kinds of disasters. And so we really need to be paying attention to enabling women and girls during those extreme events. I'd also like to say everywhere she maps, power is generated. And I really love this idea to talk about it in terms of power. Actually, it's a little bit of a pun, because we think that the data is empowering, but we're also talking about providing electricity in rural areas where women might actually be burdened with different domestic labor, and having access to electricity can make a really huge difference on things such as fetching water, having the electricity for the pumps, and just sort of reducing the domestic burden load, especially on girls who need to be going to school. I love this picture of Fatmata, who is on her motorcycle. This is a pretty innovative project where we're taking the street view imagery that's collected through the Mapillary app and trying to understand where the grids, the utility poles are, because some things you can see remotely, some things you need to use a drone like this, and try to understand where those grids are, where people with and without electricity, and how can we design a mini grid kind of system that would support a lot of rural communities, right? So that's a really powerful example, I think. Everywhere she maps, prosperity rises. This is really important because women are key to ensuring the thriving of their households. They're often responsible for feeding their families, and we have had a really tremendous collaboration with USAID and Feed the Future in Ghana. And you can see Sabina here using technology to advance prosperity in the households through that food security. So through these connections and directly connecting our youth mappers and the youth mapper chapters to innovation labs, to the actors and the stakeholders in their community around the food networks, and through USAID in country, then we're enabling those kinds of participatory technologies. And our students are also contributing to collecting information and paying attention to their women farmers who may be providing subsistence, but also increasingly can leverage an opportunity for cash crops, support women in agriculture. And a lot of that requires spatial data, like knowing these networks, knowing where the land uses are, and enabling all of that through spatial analysis. And finally, my last example that I'm really rushing through, I want to talk about innovation. Everywhere she maps, innovation happens. The Youth Mappers chapter at the University of Panama, this is Karen Martinez, really has taken that to another level. They've created a smart campus app because they realize that it's important, even at home, to create that kind of innovation and have a really deep understanding of what's going on campus. And so they have a smart campus app at the University of Panama now, where they have really leveraged that data revolution to map every building, every floor in every building, and have a really interactive way to use space. And it's all wonderful, cool technology, but it has an impact on women's lives as well, because if you need to know where to park and where to walk to your class, the lighting, there's a lot of vulnerability that can happen for our female students. So this kind of work is really important, and for inclusion and smart campus kinds of activities. So really excited to show some of these examples and what we expect that we can support through the next few years. And thanks again to USAID Geo Center and the Women's Global Development Prosperity Initiative. So take a look. We're going to do more and more of these kinds of activities, like the example. Look for more of these campaigns that you can participate in. We'll have a special round of that leadership program for women in technology. So chapters, get your annual reports in so that you'll be eligible for that. If you need to create a chapter, we'll welcome you and help you figure out how to do that. And then our regional ambassadors that I've shown to you, we'll be focusing on building that capacity of the mapping community in particular. I think some of them are even on our call here today, and we really appreciate them. So starting about January, you'll start to see some of their activities in the regions as well. So with that, I'd be very happy to take questions and comments even. All right.
So, sorry, Heather again. Hi, Patricia. Thank you so much for your presentation. We did have a Khan from Bangladesh asks about they don't have a chapter at his university. They would like to build one. Could you discuss that a little bit, please? Thank you.
Absolutely. And Khan, if you can also send a quick email to info@youthmappers.org. We can connect you up with the regional ambassadors in your region. We do have quite a few chapters in Bangladesh, so you'd be joining a community of chapters there who are really active and have been doing wonderful things. Basically, if you want to participate in getting started, there's two really different ways to get a community, a Youth Mappers group going. You can actually just affiliate an existing club. If you have a club at your university that you've already been working with, maybe it's a mapping club. It doesn't have to be in GIS or in geography. It can be, we've got chapters from, all sorts of disciplines. And again, it should be interdisciplinary. It's one chapter per campus. So if you already have that club, it's really a simple matter of just affiliating your organization, or you can start a brand new chapter. And to do that, you will want to register with your university. We ask for students to do that and have a charter, and we can give you examples about how other chapters have done that, just so that it's very clear what your structure is like. Who takes the leadership? Do you have president and secretary and treasurer and all that sort of thing? And that you should also designate a faculty mentor, because it's really important to us that there's a little bit of continuity and link back to your university, so your university can provide some of that support to the student group. But it should be led by students, supported by faculty. And basically what you would do then is, then there's a form here on our website. If you click on participate, getting started, you can see that there's a chapter application form. You'll just fill in your contact information. We'll walk you through the steps. If you're missing some kinds of information, then we can help you fill that in. Our steering committee meets every month to consider which applications have come in and what kinds of support do they need. And you can actually even network and look for other chapters through our directory here, so that you can help you along your path to starting one.
Thank you. There's some accolades saying, thank you, great presentation. In response to where she maps, one comment from Rory Nielsen was, the map, everywhere she maps, the map becomes more complete. So I agree with that completely. So thank you for that comment. I had a question. I don't think I see any others, if any more come in, but so you talked about how sometimes there's like a group syllabi, and the same question for that I had for Susan, which do you do outreach with, say, high school groups, or do you have youth mappers at the high school level?
Yeah, that's a great question. We are really focused on the university student population, and that's where the chapters are created at the universities. But when there are high schools involved, we like to point them to work through their closest university. That becomes sort of a connection for the students to be able to go and learn more after they graduate. And one of the reasons why we do this is just because of turnover. It's really hard to deal. We want to put the students first. Youth are the leaders of this, and it's really a bit of a challenge to stay connected at that high school level. So what we do is we encourage that connection with their local university, and there are quite a number of universities that do have an active outreach to their local high schools or maybe regional high schools. But the chapters themselves are created at the university and not through high school students. I do want to say that we have been a part of training some secondary school teachers through American Geographical Society and the Teach OSM. We do collaborate with them and support them. So we are able to direct people who are interested to be a part of that larger community.